On Monday, July 7, 2025, a Lufthansa Boeing 747-8 experienced not one, but two diversions, with the second resulting in a Mayday. The series of unfortunate events took place near the end of a long transatlantic flight from Frankfurt to Buenos Aires. Let's take a closer look at what happened. As reported by 1 Mile at a Time, the 747-8 involved was conducting flight LH510, the airline's longest distance flight. Taking a little over 13 hours under normal circumstances, flight crews would most certainly be keeping track of their duty hours and fuel reserves for such a mission. And so on July 7th, the 747-8 registered Delta Alpha Bravo Yankee Mike departed just shy of 1 hour behind schedule for its long journey to South America. The flight was uneventful for the most part. However, as the jumbo jet approached its destination, bad weather moved in and visibility became limited. The crew entered a holding pattern at an altitude of 7,000 feet for about 20 minutes, hoping that the weather would change just enough to allow for a landing. However, the weather did not change, and so it was decided that the jet would divert to Asunción, Paraguay, a little over 1,000 kilometers or a little less than 600 nautical miles away. The jumbo jet touched down in Asunción about an hour and a half after exiting its holding pattern at Buenos Aires. It then spent a little less than an hour on the ground at the Paraguayan airport, which we assume was to refuel, as it was to re-attempt landing at Buenos Aires. Unfortunately, hopes that the weather would improve by the time the 747 arrived at the Argentinian capital would be dashed, and the jet again entered a holding pattern. The jet spent about 30 minutes in a holding pattern, but the weather was still unsuitable for landing. And so the Lufthansa crew decided to divert to Sao Paulo this time, about 1,700 kilometers or 930 nautical miles away. Landing was successful. However, at this point, it was about 7 hours past the flight's original scheduled arrival time. At Sao Paulo, the flight was cancelled due to the crew timing out. Passengers had been on board the jet for about 20 hours, which is notably longer than even the Singapore airline service between New York and Singapore. It was reported that the 747 declared a Mayday on its final approach to the Brazilian airport. When asked for the reason by ATC, the pilot stated, quote, "crew fatigue and fuel shortage." And so it was clearly an incredibly long day for both the crew members and passengers on board the July 7th iteration of Lufthansa flight LH510. Passengers were rebooked onto other flights to get to their final destination, while the 747-8 was ferried back to Frankfurt on July 9th as flight LH9877. It's unfortunate that there were no nearby Argentinian airports that could have handled the aircraft and processed passengers with passport control and customs. At the end of the day, weather is that one uncontrollable factor that can turn even the most routine flight into an ordeal. What do you think about this whole incident? Let us know by leaving a comment. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.